Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Outrun the Neon Sun. This question that I pose to each one of you, which new Arcade1up coming out or already just released is right for you? So stay tuned. I'm gonna make some arguments here and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think. All right, with so many new games coming out right now, it's really important for us to kind of get an idea on what we think would be best for us, because if you're like me, you're not gonna be able to spend all your money on every single one of them. So some of them offer nostalgia, some of them offer kind of like this history of what you used to do. It all really depends on who you were around, what you enjoyed during that time when you were in the arcades. And so this is a really good, I think, video to really kind of look at these specifically on what you might enjoy, what might be something you would want to purchase. Now, as always, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. I love your comments. I respond to all of them right now that I can. And I'm really encouraged by them. So let's interact. If you're like, hey, Dan, I totally disagree with you, that's okay, I can handle it. But don't forget to like and subscribe. As one of my favorite bands says in there, it's The Midnight, which I'm not gonna have any qualms about this. It's one of my favorite bands right now. It's called The Midnight. And they said, we are not a sentimental age. We don't want our parents' china or their ticker tape parade. And the reality is, when I'm explaining these things to you, I can't be there for you like I would like, right? I can't necessarily encourage you. I can't do any counseling. I can't really say anything other than show you what I'm passionate for and I'm really excited for. I don't know what's going on in your lives. I don't know what you experience. I don't know what you're going to experience. But I know these arcades are a great way for us to kind of encourage each other and kind of remember when things were much more simple. And so that's why I'm still really excited about Arcade1up and what they're doing. I'm excited for all the things that we can pre-order. I'm excited for the rumors that are happening that hopefully will take place. And so without too much further ado, let's jump right into the 5 cabinets that I think are coming out, and let's talk about them. So the 3 arcades that are pretty much out right now that you can either pre-order or that have already shipped. The first one is the NBA Jam Shack Edition. Now this is the extremely tall 67-inch one, extremely tall. That's a little bit bigger. It's got a 19-inch screen. We're going to talk about that one. Then you also have the new Bandai Namco Legacy cabinet of Miss Pac-Man. That's coming out. You can pre-order that as well. That'll be pretty exciting. And lastly, right now that we know, is the Yoga Flame Cabinet Edition, special edition of Street Fighter 2. It's got a wonderful bunch of games on that as well. And then I want to talk about the 2 rumors that are kind of like, we kind of assume that they're coming, all the rumors that have happened, the Time Crisis cabinet and the NFL Blitz cabinet. So out of these next 5 that we think are going to be released, perhaps there's a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet coming out. Maybe they're going to release that pretty soon. Let us know. This video, I'm not going to post it for a little while, so maybe they've already done it, hopefully. That's one that I would be excited to pre-order because I don't have too many fighting cabinets, as you can see around here. But what out of these 5 that we know, or at least we think we know, which one would be best for you if you only could buy one? You know, that's a good question, because a lot of us have already invested so much of our finances in this and we're kind of like, okay, now we're getting pretty picky, right? We have had this huge history where Arcade1up has put amazing games out for about 4 years. And we're like, okay, we got the Street Fighter 2s, we got the Bandai Namcos, we got the Miss Pac-Mans or the Pac-Mans, we've got some of the Mortal Kombat, right? We've got the Midway Legacy cabinets, some of us have. So what is it now that we really enjoy, that we really are hoping to see? Now, a lot of people are hoping for a Daytona USA, which would be great to have them combined so we can play 2 players against each other. Some people really want a Q*bert cabinet. I would love to see a Marble Madness cabinet, a Taito cabinet that's specific for Raston or Elevator Action, or even an Operation Wolf. I mean, there's some amazing potentials out there, and Arcade1up needs to be pretty specific. And so they've done this for the next 5. So the first one that I want to go over and talk about and really kind of get into a little bit more is this one. So as you know, this is the Yoga Flame Edition cabinet from Arcade1up. They've already seen the artwork all over the place. In fact, they're going to release a blue one that all of us have seen the artwork for the Hadouken one. Hadouken! You know, like whatever it might be. So what is it so special about this cabinet that would entice us? Maybe a lot of us have already either gotten the Big Blue, we've gotten the Street Fighter 2 original one, or we got the re-release of the Street Fighter 2. And there's a lot of the same, right? So is this something that would entice us who have those cabinets to buy a new one? Now this one has a special one. It was the last of the sub-series of Street Fighter 2s. This has the Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting Edition. That one came out in 1993. So most of these releases, except the one that I'll talk about maybe soon, came out in the early 90s. right? Most of the games that I'm going to be talking about today came out in the early 90s, kind of this renaissance period, right? Until 1994-95, when the consoles like PlayStation or N64 came out and really took over and really kind of killed the arcade industry. There was like $7 billion spent in arcades in 94 and 95 until PlayStation came in and wiped it. And then a ton of arcades just got out of business, which is a major bummer. I'm not bitter. I kind of am. That's why I'm searching for all these arcade places in the LA area, and there's not a ton. But what is it about Street Fighter II that draws people in so much? What would make us want to buy this cabinet? Now let's look at the specs a little bit for this. So as I mentioned, the Street Fighter II series of sub-games were all on the same hardware, but the next one, Super Street Fighter II, switched hardware. It has increased game speed that we're seeing in the Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting, Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting. It has increased game speed, new special moves, new color palettes, different endings for different players when you beat the game. You're also going to get King of Dragons on this cabinet, Strider, Pro Gear. You're going to get Battle Circuit, Super Puzzle Fighter, Saturday Night Slam Masters, Capcom Sports Club, Final Fight, Giga Wing, Captain Commando, and Armor Warriors. Now, obviously, these are a ton of games that we could really enjoy. And I feel like I have on the Final Fight cabinet that I got, one of the first 4 that they released. That was an amazing cabinet because of all the different games. It had 1944, which to me still is one of the best arcades out there. It's a shmup that a lot of us, we don't have really any shmups. I'd love to see Arcade1up come up with more. So unfortunately, this Yoga Flame cabinet doesn't have any shmups, which is pretty interesting that they chose to not go that route. Pro Gear is okay. The standout one, I think also, besides the Street Fighters on this cabinet, is Saturday Night Slam Masters. Now, that game seems like it's a lot of fun. I never played that in the arcade, but I wouldn't mind owning this cab for that game. All right, so I do want to talk about the artwork really quick on this game. Now, they did a special for this, for the side artwork and for the riser. I'm not a big fan of it because it doesn't harken back to really any nostalgia. It's a new thing. It's kind of similar to what I've seen on II Arcade with their Dead Cells or their Dragon's Lair versions of their game, or that wrestling game that they have. Now, I'm not going to poo-poo on IR Arcade. They're doing a great job. If you just, I just want to play the games, I want to play as many of them, and I don't have a lot of space. That's a great system, a great platform to use. But if we're looking at Arcade1up, we're looking at the Yoga Flame Edition, it doesn't pull me in because there's no nostalgia associated with the actual cabinet. I mean, you look at the likes of Tron or Dragon's Lair, which everybody says they're awesome, or some people say they're super overrated. I don't think so. I mean, I look at this Terminator 2 cabinet, and I just love it. I look at the guns, the light guns, and I'm going, this is so beautiful. And so it's just something that we need to consider when pursuing this. But if Street Fighter II was one of your favorite games back in the day and you don't have any, this might be a perfect addition. I can't justify, since I already have Street Fighter II, I already have the Special Edition, I already have the regular edition, I already have the Turbo, or I guess the Super Street Fighter II. I don't really have a need to draw me in to buy this game. But if that's what you really love and you don't have any, then obviously this is a no-brainer. You'd want to get this one. You can play Wi-Fi, you can play against other people, hopefully, that, you know, we're going to go into the Wi-Fi capabilities for NBA Jam. But for right now, it's a good option, all right? So that's probably the first one. The second one that I want to talk about is this one. All right, so the second one that I'm going to talk about is the new Bandai Namco Miss Pac-Man Legacy Edition cabinet. Now, obviously, most of you know Miss Pac-Man was put out in 1981, a year after Pac-Man came out, and it came out with the likes of like Galaga. Dig Dug came out in 1982, so this was really the class of 81 that you can get that cabinet. But this is if you look at the cabinet, and as you're watching it right now, this is just gorgeous. I mean, really, this has a ton of nostalgia. It gives me the feels on this one. And though the games may not be first rate when it comes to graphics, like some of these games at first glance are pretty amazing. You have Miss Pac-Man, you have Galaga, and you have Dig Dug. Now, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, and Dig Dug are all the Golden Age classics. It has all the rest of the Pac-Man, Pac-Mania. You don't get actually the Pac-Man game because Miss Pac-Man takes the place of that in this cabinet, but it does look beautiful. And it does really create those nostalgia feels when you look at this cabinet. I feel like it's just gorgeous. And there are Wi-Fi leaderboards for this one that I'm assuming. And it's just one of those cabinets that, for me, if I don't have any of the Bandai Namco, right? If I don't have a legacy cabinet, this would be the one I would love. In fact, I think it's much more beautiful than my actual Pac-Man cabinet that I have. And that's saying a lot because I love my Pac-Man. It's one of the most played cabinets that I have. The Miss Pac-Man cab is really a beautiful cab. And if you really love playing Golden Age arcade games, like this is a perfect one. Along with the Atari Legacy cab, I have the Tempest one, and that's beautiful as well. And some people are like, that's my bread and butter, that's where I want to stay, that's the nostalgia. When I went to the arcades with my friends, we would see the Tempest cabs, we'd see the Missile Commands, we'd see the Miss Pac-Mans, we'd see the Galagas, we'd see the Dig Dugs. These are the games that I really loved and I grew up on. And I got older and I got out of arcades later on because I got more into girls, whatever it might be, because mostly guys are watching this. Girls, if you're watching this and you played it during that time, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you did after you got out of the arcades. Maybe you have it and you're still in it. That would be awesome. But basically, this cabinet is if you love the Golden Age. It doesn't have a ton of amazing games. I think the three best ones are Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, which I love. It's one of my personal favorites, and Dig Dug, which is also one of my personal favorites. But again, you kind of have to consider, is this what I want? Would it justify me purchasing another one as it comes out? I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to put my money towards it. I'm not going to invest in either the Yoga Flame or the Miss Pac-Man Legacy. So let's talk about this third one. Okay, so the third one that we're talking about is really the NBA Jam Shaq Edition. Now, if you own an NBA Jam currently, does this entice you? Is it something you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta get rid of my old NBA Jam because I really want this new one. I love the 19-inch BOE, hopefully. Actually, I don't know if any of the monitors are BOE, but hopefully it's a BOE monitor. And what was great about NBA Jam when it came out, I mean, it was massive when it came out. Obviously, the history of it is gorgeous. It came out in 1991. And it had these just beautiful specs on the actual cabinet. See, this cabinet was developed by Midway in 1993, and it was an instant success. It was the forerunner to the likes of NFL Blitz, NHL Hits, because it developed this subgenre of basketball games based on incredibly fast action and exaggerated realism. It was the first licensed game that featured the names of real players as well. And that was a huge turn-on for a lot of guys and girls who were coming to play basketball in this amazing arcade. The PCB on the original cabinet contained this new scaling chip that helped smooth out what could have been stilted animation. The game also was capable of displaying 256 colors, all at the same time, simultaneously, which made the combination one of the most advanced graphics ever seen in any arcade at the time. You didn't have the usual things that could slow this game down, like free throws or out of bounds when they created this game. All that they had was a 24-second time clock that you had to make a shot by then, and goaltending, right? Those are the only things that would transfer play. So it was quick, quick, quick. You couldn't even go out of bounds, and you could nail people, and you can get in their faces and try to steal the ball. And all of us love the iconic phrase of like, he's heating up, right?
He's heating up!
He's on fire, it just these amazing things are my favorite one is it must be the shoes, whatever it might be. This game was super nostalgic, but what I believe why Arcade1up is presenting this cabinet is because maybe a lot of people didn't get into the initial wave of NBA Jam, and they're thinking and hoping, hey, if we make it a little bit bigger, if we associate Shaq's name with this because it's such a popular name, then maybe we'll sell more to people who are on the fence of buying one. That's the only reason why I personally feel like they put an Arcade1up, another NBA Jam. To me, I feel like this might do the same in sales-wise as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when they re-released that one, and the Turtles in Time cabinet. For me, it was the same exact two games that I already had, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get that. And they put so much energy and emphasis onto creating this amazing game, but I already had it, and so for me, I think a lot of people who were super excited and needed to have like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cabinet had already purchased it or were already scouring eBay for it. So with NBA Jam, I feel like the same sort of thing happens. And it's to me, when you have this Wi-Fi capability, and this is another gripe with this cabinet, and I think it's not gonna do well, and I'll tell you why. Because the thing is, you can play online with other players across the world. And you're like, yes, that's awesome. I'm a single guy, or I'm a parent, or I'm a retired person who doesn't have any kids at home, or whatever. You have plenty of time. You're wanting to go on the arcades and play against somebody. I get the desire for that. However, I was looking at a bunch of videos of people who did that with the Mortal Kombat, the new Mortal Kombat cabinet that came out. And no one is playing it online together because there's not enough purchases of this game. And I feel like that's going to be the same thing. People are going to be like, I'm so excited to play this game with other people, but there's not going to be enough people who have purchased. I mean, you need thousands and thousands of cabinets sold just to be able to play online with a few people. You look at your games on your phone, and you look at like Clash Royale, which is a very popular one, that has millions of sales. That's why you can just go and play it against other people anytime. And so for me, I just don't see this one as something that I know I'm not going to put my money towards. But if sports games are your jam, if you love sports games, to say that, I apologize, then this might be something you want to get if you've never purchased anything before. But if not, I think most of us are going to hold off on that. Okay, now let's look at the future a little bit. Now, there's a lot of speculation and a lot of hype. A lot of people are like promoting this and super excited about the Time Crisis cabinet that may be coming out, hopefully with a release time around Christmas, or at least a pre-order time around Christmas. That's what I'm thinking. They might like wait for it. They might, and I was going on Reddit, and I was seeing all these things on Reddit, and a bunch of guys are like, for sure, we're getting Time Crisis, we're getting Time Crisis 2, and we're getting Point Blank all in the same cabinet. Now this would be great. For me, I love my Terminator 2 cabinet. It's one of my favorite cabinets to play. I just go and I shoot a bunch of Terminators and I'm good and I'm satisfied. I don't play it for prolonged periods of time, but it still is a beautiful cab that I love to play. People say it's overrated. I don't think so at all. I would still buy it for the full price that I bought it for. Actually, no, I think I bought it for cheaper. But if it was, say, hey, you had to rebuy it for $700 and I had that $700, I would probably pre-order it again. I love this cabinet because of the light gun technology. It's so different. I don't have Big Buck World or Big Buck Hunter. I didn't get in on those because they just weren't that enticing to me. They weren't something that I was like, you know what, this is a game I have to have. But Terminator 2, I remember. And so all this to say is Time Crisis was another game that I remember going to the arcades and absolutely loving and playing. Now this is much later on. I was in junior high, and it was kind of on the very tail end for me of playing arcades because I really got into girls, and that was my main focus for a little while until I had kids, and now I'm back into arcades, thank God. But what was interesting about this Reddit, this guy was saying, okay, they're actually going to do something new, Arcade1up. And this is all rumors and speculation. They're going to have two cabinets side by side with two monitors. It's going to be $900, and you're going to be able to have two light guns going against each other on a similar screen. It's going to be a completely different design, and that's the rumor. Now, that would be epic. It would be great even if they had a 19-inch monitor. Console Kits put out like a wish list, or maybe someone else did on what they hope the Time Crisis will include. And one of those is a 19-inch monitor, just a bigger monitor for us to actually see certain things. And they have the actual thing that they press down to be able to duck behind cover. They already got that technology with the Outrun cabinet and the Ridge Racer cabinet, so that's not going to be difficult to kind of duck. So this game seems like it should be fairly simple, and Point Blank is one of the best party games that you can include people. It's just a fun, simple, incredible game. This is something I would absolutely pre-order in a heartbeat. This is actually the one that I'm holding off for. This, and I'm hoping that they release a Daytona USA eventually. That would be incredible if they had those games. And it's interesting because they've kind of gotten beyond the golden age now, and now they're going into the early 90s. They're kind of trying to take that route. But Time Crisis would be pretty interesting, I think, to see. Now, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Now, I'd said $900 like it was no big deal. Don't get me wrong, I'd have to sell like a kidney in order for me to be able to buy that cabinet. Pre-ordering it, I don't think that it's going to be a possibility, but it's still, can you imagine like having a Daytona USA 2 side by side where you and one of your friends could go and play? Or can you imagine having a Time Crisis where there's two side by side where you and your buddy can play against each other or help each other out? Like, that would be insane. Or Time Crisis 2 or Point Blank playing on that. I mean, just imagine where Arcade1up may be going and pushing the limits of what we can get for our home arcades at such a cheaper price. That's really significant, I think, in the lives of all of us who are really excited about Arcade1up. and trying to create that 80s nostalgia. And I think it really is going to happen. I think we just kind of have to be patient. Now, there's a lot of people complaining about the cabs that are coming out. And I'm sorry, I have a gripe against you guys who are complaining about any and everything. Like, I don't want to go into specifics because people will call me out, but I'm tired of people going, oh, we need this, we need this. Every single cabinet that they put out is a blessing. And I was talking to somebody on my channel, right? And they were kind of messaging me like, can you believe that our 13-year-old selves or 15-year-old selves or 10-year-old selves are able to play the games that we played back in the day in our own homes? Like, sometimes people just sit and just stare at their cabinets, and that's what this is creating. Okay, so I'm not gonna keep going on and on about this, but Time Crisis would be huge. I would love to see that cabinet. And the last one is this, it's the NFL Blitz cabinet. Now, there's obviously a ton of hype. You see the videos with Deion Sanders in the background, which to me, someone could have just modded that cabinet for him. And we really don't know that NFL Blitz is coming out, other than the fact that we all know that NFL Blitz is coming out. But just the Deion Sanders one, I don't know, that video really shows with clarity that it for sure is not a modded cab. But if it is the case, it's pretty small. And I have some gripes against the potential for NFL Blitz that Arcade1up might put out. Okay, so NFL Blitz was released in 1997. Beyond my personal years playing in the arcades, sadly. It was the year I met my wife, and I was way too into her to get distracted by a bunch of guys hitting each other on a football field. I'm joking, but I didn't go into the arcades that year for some reason. So by 1995, I was out. I had said goodbye to that nostalgia, and in comes this NFL Blitz that a lot of people absolutely loved. NFL Blitz is potentially, I will say, it's almost 100% that it's coming to Arcade1up. What does that mean? To some, NBA Jam was the precursor to all of these. So in the original game of NFL Blitz, 7 players would be on the field playing against each other, and they actually had the marquee names of the actual football players, much like NBA Jam did, right? So you were able to play some of your favorite football players of that time. And what was so amazing about NFL Blitz is that it was an incredibly violent way to play football. It was much quicker than anything that they had seen before, and what was great is you could just nail each other after the play was done, almost like a Mortal Kombat. Like, you would just be jumping on players and you would be showboating, and it was that, to me, is what made the game when I did actually end up playing it later, right? Or when I would go and visit the arcade just for the heck of it or what have you. When I would play NFL Blitz, it was this game that was super fun, right? And it wasn't hard. It was exaggerated realism. And we all loved that aspect of NFL Blitz. But the rumors are, again, these are just rumors, that they're taking away the late hits in NFL Blitz. Now, you may not think that that's that big of a deal because you just love the football game itself. But to me, that is a crucial component to this game, right? Because it was ported over back in the day, and the NFL actual league says we don't want to have any more late hits when you port these games over, so they actually are no longer allowing that. Now, NFL Blitz, the NFL owns the license to much of NFL Blitz, and so they have to release it to Arcade1up. So which version are they going to release? Are they going to release the 1997 version or the 2022 version where everything's politically correct? I don't know, but if they do release the politically correct one, it's going to be hugely disappointing, and that is not something I'm going to put my money towards, even though it does create a little bit of nostalgia for me having that arcade game. I would rather put my money towards other games that they would be releasing, so I would hold off. And now, they're probably going to be doing a ton of repackaging of all these other games, but NFL Blitz would be an interesting one for me. They're going to do a 17-inch monitor. They're probably going to cut corners. They're probably not going to have a BOE monitor because those chips are very difficult to produce nowadays. And there's just a lot of potential bad things that NFL Blitz really needs to make it successful on this medium that Arcade1up is creating. So yeah, to go back, hitting people after the play, that part was awesome. That's why we played the game. I mean, ultimately, we play video games. If anybody's listening and if anybody cares, we don't play video games because we think it's life. We don't play video games because it's real. We play video games to have fun. I mean, you look at Killer Instinct, you look at even Primal Rage later on, you look at some of these games, you're like, that's not real. I'm enjoying this because it's fun, because it's entertaining, and I get to talk smack to my friends. And NFL Blitz, if they take that away, to me is a game changer. It won't be something that I'm going to invest my money in, and that's really important. So which arcade that are coming out, which Arcade1up is right for you? Now, it's important to really consider. We have a lot of things that we got to spend our money towards with gasoline prices right now, with food prices going through the roof, with probably the housing market crashing pretty soon, and the world basically ending because everybody's freaking out. All right, everybody's gonna be okay. We just need to relax and play video games. No, I'm kidding. So which one is best for you? Why am I talking about this? Well, if you truly love Street Fighter 2 and you don't have any, Yoga Flame is a no-brainer, right? That's gonna be a great game. Hopefully, again, I don't know, I've only heard very slight rumors that Marvel vs. Capcom is coming out. Hopefully that's gonna be the case. I would actually probably invest in that because I didn't get the first one. I wish I had. But then you have the Bandai Namco, which really harkens back to the golden age of arcades, and if that is something that you really love, then get that one. That one would be perfect. If it's the NBA Jam Shaq Edition, for me, that's the one that is probably least interested. I love my NBA Jam cabinet. However, I can't justify spending all this money on a bigger version of the same game. But hey, if you've never bought NBA Jam, this is a gorgeous cabinet. I mean, it looks beautiful, don't get me wrong. And the fourth one, Time Crisis, if that comes out for pre-order and hopefully it's going to be cheaper but not more expensive, not super expensive, I might be able to pre-order that one. That one I would really consider because I don't really have too many Lycan games. I only have the Terminator 2. NFL Blitz, I'm going to fully wait. I'm going to wait for guys to review it, to talk about it, to see if it's actually worth it. And the late hits, I'm going to see if they actually have taken that away or not. So that's my take. Before you leave, I do want to encourage you. So one of the things that I love to do is I love to just play video games and listen to music. And I mentioned this in the very beginning that I listen to The Midnight, this band called The Midnight. So I want to share with you my Spotify account, right? Not the actual back end, but so you can follow one of my lists if you want. If you don't have any lists, I'm sure you're creating lists. But if you want to come and join and kind of see, The Midnight is a great band if you've never seen them. I don't know them at all. They're just one of my favorite. It really harkens back to this 80s nostalgia. They use a lot of the 80s instruments that they use to sing the songs, and they're phenomenal. So I have a list called the Midnight Mix, and I'll put it on the link below, and I'll probably put it on the screen as well. And you can follow me on there. And if you have any questions about anything, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Please don't forget to like this channel and email me at poprockpodcast@gmail.com. Lastly, very last, I'm going to be going to Button Mash on August 12th. I know a few of you who are watching this channel are going to be coming with me, and I got a bunch of people, a bunch of friends that are going to be coming with me as well, and I would love to see you there. I really would. I would love to just hang out, talk arcades, have a few beers, have some good food, because they have tacos and tons of amazing things there. So Button Mash, August 12th. Probably going to be there around 6:30. That's it. Thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to keep outrunning that neon sun.